Ah, he is political enough to essentially dominate the entire world through force of mind entirely. So we can see they're way hugely off about Peter. Similarly, Valentine, we don't get to see too much of what she's capable of in terms of violence. But even at the age of 8 or whatever she is in the novel, when Peter is, choking Ender, ready to kill him, we have Valentine stand up to him and really face down, the psychopathic murderer. And she's too peaceful. She's unafraid. She's daring. Like, she stands up to evil at the risk of her own life. But no, the battle school, sure, she's too peaceful. They didn't even try it. Never mind the fact that they were apparently already planning the entire simulation deception. Is Valentine too peaceful to kill bugs in the game? Or I guess that brilliant strategy, shoot the bug homeworld with your matter destruction beam, so brilliant, by the way, would never have occurred to peaceful Valentine. I think that's what Orson Scott Card is trying to convey. Not very smart. Untested. And what's so bothersome about this is that the battle school just gives up on Peter and Valentine entirely. Peter's too violent, but Bonzo Madrid, he checks out. Really? Why wouldn't you train Peter and Valentine anyway? Maybe they are too violent or too peaceful, respectively, to be the ideal fleet commander, but could they at least contribute something to the defense of humanity? No, forget it. No, it's fine. We'll find someone else, don't worry about it. Silly. Another really kind of perplexingly, bizarrely bad decision that the battle school people make, the commandant or the fleet commander or whoever he is it almost pains me to even recall this. The silly decisions to let Ender get in fights that are literally life and death because they want him to, he's got to learn to fend for himself. Why does he have to learn that? That's not an important lesson anywhere. What are you afraid that he will think as he stands outside of the bug homeworld with his fleet of supposedly simulated ships, that he will think, an adult will come rescue me? No. Even if you saved him from a fight with a bully, he wouldn't have that belief. That is entirely disconnected. That's such a non sequitur thing to believe. So they put Ender at mortal peril on multiple occasions. I would say it's somewhat iffy to describe the fight with Stilson as mortal peril, if it weren't for the fact that Stilson wound up dying, so it must have been at least possible in that universe for Ender to wind up dying. Obviously, the much more dangerous scenario is when Ender fights Bonzo Madrid right inside the seat of the fleet's power, where they could have easily stopped it. The fleet did nothing. They could have even done something subtle, let's have this huge, strong kid just be friends with Ender and secretly have the job of protecting him all the time. That would have been something an idiot would have thought of. That's an obvious idea, is what I'm saying. And the fleet didn't even think of that. They're just we'll risk it. I'm sure he'll win. And this is another kind of non sequitur in their reasoning, is that they think because Ender is good at, commanding a fleet, that he'll be good at, fist fighting people, or that he'll be good at playing Space Marine in the zero-G environments. No, those are completely different skills. They're paradigmatically different. To be commanding fleets of starships and to be fighting, 7-year-old children in the shower. Those are ridiculously different. So another crazy thing the Battle School does is they commit their entire fleet to battle against the bugs without even knowing how many starships the bugs have. They don't know the disposition of the bug queens. Maybe all the bug queens are on their homeworld, but maybe they're not. Right? If the bugs are anything other than brain dead, they would have backup queens somewhere else other than that one homeworld. And I believe they do, if I remember the subsequent novels correctly. Well, they have at least one inside of Ender's Game, but anyway, it's a poor gamble for the fleet to commit every single last one of their starships to attack the bug homeworld. The reason it's a poor gamble is not only because they do not know the strength of the bug fleet, they also don't know if some other danger is out there lurking. Perhaps a third, as yet unknown alien species will arrive to attack the Earth while your entire fleet is out, perhaps being pointlessly expended against the vastly superior numbers of the bug starships, or perhaps just being picked apart because that miraculous messiah leader you were waiting for was never born to command your fleet, or maybe because he was born but then died in some kind of lame shower fight that you were just too much of an idiot to stop. So the fleet's taking huge risks. They take huge risks with Ender. They take huge risks with all of humanity. And this actually causes me to think of another failing in Ender. Failing simultaneously too in the bugs. And this is characteristic of the novel, that the stupidity is consistent across every character. It's not just that some characters are dumb, some characters are smart. It's that every character is really making a lot of mistakes, doing things that are not really reasonable. So what I mean by this is that Ender goes to attack the bug homeworld. That betrays fundamental unreasonability on the part of the fleet school that's put Ender in charge, that sent every last spaceship to the bug homeworld and to face unknown odds. For kind of a dubious purpose. Like, maybe you exterminate the bugs in that one battle, but maybe they have other planets and other fleets you don't know about, and they come back and wreck you next year. The fleet is stupid. The bugs are stupid. The bugs know that Ender has access to the matter destruction beam that blows up densely packed matter. So, of course, naturally, the bugs pack their ships as dense as possible around their homeworld, and then, fly out at Ender to try to stop him or fight him off, or some silly nonsense like that. Like, what's a better plan we could use? Oh, I know, says Ender. We'll just fight them and then, fight through them and then shoot their planet because they won't be expecting it. They won't be expecting it? You have a matter destruction beam, you're attacking their homeworld, and they're not expecting you to destroy their homeworld? What's a better plan? Well, better plans are almost too many to name. Here's an example. The bugger fleet densely packed around their homeworld. The human fleet arrives. Human fleet goes to the bugger sun and destroys the star with the matter destruction beam, and then just flies away without engaging at all, because their ships are all over there packed around the homeworld, but they still need the star to live, so bad news, bugs. Variants of that plan are possible. For example, instead of sending your entire fleet to the bugger homeworld, you could just pack one of the little doctor devices onto an asteroid, or even better, onto one of the stealth rocks that you stole from the bugs, and then just kind of lob that asteroid, put it on a trajectory that it would pass by the bug homeworld. Pew! Bugs destroyed. That it would pass by the bug star. Pew! Bugs ensconced in darkness and cold. Bugs all die. There are better plans. this is kind of a fundamental point about Ender's Game, is that the very nature of space combat in Ender's Game is childlike. As I mentioned before, it's a child's novel, so this is appropriate. But, well, I still want to discuss it, to be honest. It just belies the fact that Ender's Game is a poorly thought out universe. So, like, the classic weapon used by the humans is the Little Doctor, which is a bad weapon for spaceship combat. You know, you have to imagine, at what distance do we detect the enemy? It's probably something like a light second, a light minute perhaps. I don't know enough astronomy to say, and we don't really know enough about the state of contemporary scanners in the Ender's Game universe, or of spaceships. For example, if their spaceships are very well shielded for heat and radiation, then they might not be giving off much of a profile at all, and they might not be identifiable until very close range. In which case, how would they even have spaceship battles at all? They would fly past each other in the dead of space and never know it. So we should probably assume that they can detect enemy spaceships at a fair distance, if it's possible for them to coordinate spaceship battles. So, you know, you can detect someone, we'll say a light minute, and you're going to use an energy beam to destroy their spaceship. You can imagine, you know, a canvas, or rather a hemisphere, drawn out in front of you a light minute away. And imagine how vast a space that would be, and how tiny a percentage of that would be the enemy ship. And if the enemy ship is modulating its acceleration randomly, that is, if they're speeding up or slowing down, or, you know, now we're at 92% acceleration, now we're at 92.5, now we're at 93. If they're doing that type of thing, they're going to be at an incalculable spot in space, which means your energy beam that you fired now will arrive at where you thought they were going to be a minute ago. It'll take a light minute for it to get there if you're engaging at a light minute out. Sorry, it'll take a minute to get there. So yeah, you'd be essentially unhittable by weapons that are limited to the speed of light, which is all weapons. So obviously, energy beams or any kind of laser is right out for a starship. Why would you use it? A more effective weapon would be a nuclear missile. Perhaps more effective still is a missile with the Little Doctor device on it. So basically you fire the missile, it tracks the enemy ship, because the missile has the wonderful property for spaceship combat of being able to realign, change its trajectory, apply acceleration. Things that the laser beam couldn't do. You know, the laser beam will miss because you randomly changed your acceleration. The missile will recorrect. And if the missile can get itself close enough for a nuclear blast to detonate and destroy your ship, great. Likewise, if the missile can get in range for the Little Doctor on the missile, great. So that's one, you know, kind of common sense element that was missing from spaceship combat in Ender's Game. They also don't talk a lot about velocity, which is an important part of a spaceship battle. You know, the Bugs' spaceships are all stationed around their homeworld in really kind of a ridiculous way. What would stop Ender from just taking an orbit around the star system, building up speed, and then attacking the homeworld when his ships were moving at a very, very high rate of speed? And they could just blow by the enemy, unleash their missiles or their lasers if they have to, and then escape before the enemy can really retaliate, or just unload their entire volley against the planet, or just suicide a wave of your fighters into the planet at near light speed. and fire the little doctor when you do that. Like, the bugs are arrayed poorly. It's not just that, though. They're arrayed by someone who's never thought of the most fundamental parts of zero-G combat, of spaceship combat. Like, your speed is important. Your disposition in space is important, right? Like, no matter how many ships you don't have enough to cover your planet in them. So you're not going to protect your planet from a spaceship flying in and shooting a laser beam at it unless you can detect that spaceship from a long ways out, get to it in time, and destroy it, which you wouldn't be able to do if your ships are all essentially stationary in orbit around your planet, while the enemy builds up speed in orbit and then just bombards you at light speed. So Orson Scott Card is not thinking about spaceship combat. Another way he's not thinking about it is he describes the reason they want to use children in space as dumb, as like, well, children have faster reaction times. And this part, like, literally confuses me, because Orson Scott Card was anticipating a computer that could do all of those things the computer does in the mind game with Ender. But he didn't anticipate a computer that could target lasers. Like, huh? You know, that's pretty obvious. And it's pretty obvious that any part of spaceship combat that requires reaction times, such as targeting, would be an automatic process. So Orson Scott Card failed to think of that. Yeah, I'll continue this tomorrow. I'm enjoying it. Yeah.